Hi guys, it is a gloomy, depressing day here in the end times in the paradise of Garfield, Texas on this gloomy Tuesday, February 6, 2018. But my day just got brightened because I finally, after how many years, have the great Humpty Dumpty tribe honor to actually having a chit chat with one of my old YouTube buddies, semi-retired. Hopefully he will be coming back into the fore in the near future, and that would be none other than my fellow doom and gloomer, Vegematic. So any of you who are lucky enough to know Vegematic know that he has a certain, I don't know, what is his outlook, acerbic, is that the word I'm looking for, outlook on the state of the planet. And Vegematic has been kind of in hiding the past few months since the Trumpocene unrolled, but hopefully this interview is going to bring Vegematic back to YouTube. So for this week's edition of Voices from the Doomosphere, welcome aboard my old buddy Vegematic. Come on to the tribe and you say hi.
Hello, fellow Doomsday people, friends of the Doomosphere. And I'm just here to say that we are really fucked. We are more fucked than Stormy Daniels working a port after a Turkish freighter docks. And, you know, with the stock market, you've got a fascist in power, consolidating power, forming his own secret police. And, you know,
they're not that secret, but anyway.
Well, it's a happy day for the world. And it's actually sunny here in Canada, and it's bouncing off the snow, so it puts me in a better mood. Plus, I'm celebrating the imminent decline of the stock market. Is it still falling, Hambone?
It was at when I first clicked things on this morning. I guess the entire planet's stock market is.
Well, you see, there can be good news in the Doomosphere, and the stock market crashing is the best news I've heard in years. And I'm cheering on, like you, the decline and fall of industrial civilization, and that would include industrial war, industrial slaughter, you know that, ignorant Christians. I'm sort of torn right now between environmental destruction and nuclear war. And, you know, I go back and forth, and I figure we've got a few years if it's environmental destruction, although it will increasingly be more difficult and hellish. Like the rest of the world, I mean, we're in the West, and we're totally insulated from reality. We have all these creature comforts, and we are blissfully unaware that 3/4 of the world is in a living hell that is getting worse. And we're doing nothing about it. Our political systems are completely corrupt. Everything is just really fucked. So that's my philosophy right now. You see, I used to be hopeful when I first started watching.
You did used to be hopeful. What has happened to that?
Well, you know, cheerfulness wears off after a while, and, you know, they changed my meds, and so that really fucked me up, and I started listening to Hambone after I went off the meds, and I realized that this guy is right. And I'll tell you, there have been studies done that have proven that depressed people are more intelligent than the rest of the world, the clueless morons that are considered psychologically healthy. So I'm wearing my depression now as sort of a badge of pride, you know, and I'm a proud member of the Doomosphere now. So I want to thank you for having me on and expressing my sense of hopelessness with the situation. You know, I mean, there's no way out. We can perhaps shorten it a little bit, but I don't know. Maybe I'm rooting for nuclear war after all. Total annihilation. Really, it would be quick. Well, it wouldn't really be quick. There'd be nuclear winter and some starvation. So, you know, there is a lot of suffering involved. But I am overall cheerful that the decline of industrialized civilization has begun, you know.
Now,
People that call
obviously, yeah, we cannot have a discussion of that without mentioning your favorite person. For someone who doesn't even live in the United States, your pointed hatred of Donald Trump is, I mean, it's beyond even most Americans who have to live with this motherfucker at the head of the table.
We all have to live with him. We all have to live with him. He's a very powerful moron at this point, and he has total power over the largest military in the world. What is it, 800 bases? America has got its nose in every country in the world, and Trump says something, says jump to Trudeau. Trudeau will jump. I mean, he's terrified now that NAFTA's going to fall apart because I guess we won't be able to ship our filthy crude down there as cheaply. So,
wait a minute, make sure people understood you. Just so you understand, Vegematic is Canadian, and he said NAFTA. It sounded like you said NASA. So NASA's falling apart.
Okay.
NASA is falling apart.
I'll try and tone down the Canuckistan accent, eh?
Yeah, because I do think NASA is quickly falling apart. So anyway, now that you mentioned Trudeau, I want, well, first to finish up a Canadian's. First, of course, being a spoiled American, I only want to talk about this side of the border. So, talk a little more about your view of Donald Trump, but then I want to hear your view of that little pretty boy up on your side of the fence, that Justin Trudeau, who is making me sick by the minute.
The best way I can describe Mr. Trudeau is the male version of Hillary Clinton. I think that probably is as close as you're going to get. I don't hate him like I did the previous prime minister. I don't hate him with a visceral hatred. I just think he's a goof. Generally, he's a rich, spoiled kid. His father, of course, was prime minister of Canada for, I think it was 16 years.
Yeah.
Back when I was growing up, starting from 68. And when Trudeau first appeared on the scene, I thought maybe he would be a chip off the old block, because I'll tell you, Trudeau did a lot of good things. Pierre Trudeau repaired relations with Cuba, went down and visited with Fidel, and his wife Margaret. Well, she had some fun with the Rolling Stones, and it wasn't boring. I thought that Canada was kind of cool then. And then, of course, we got into the conservative era, which I suppose with the conservatives in Canada probably would be like centrist Democrats, but still they managed to do a hell of a lot of damage to the country. And, of course, promoting oil is doing huge amounts of damage to the earth, and we're exporting our poison just like you guys, I mean, really, we're pretty much the same country, except that I think we're not quite as far along the fascism road as you guys. But I'm worried that eventually Donald will pick a fight with pretty boy Trudeau, and then we'll have American troops patrolling the streets here in Canada. And, I figure the best way to deal with it if American troops do invade Canada is to throw joints at them. And, some Canadian beer perhaps, and convince them that they are working for the heart of Mordor in America. Really, when you think about it, I think for those with a faith perspective, they would say that, well, some would say that Donald Trump is the Antichrist, and I certainly can't deny that they may have a valid point. I am looking for like crazy evangelicals that don't think Donald Trump has been appointed by God, and this is just so fucking weird. I'll tell you, this whole religious thing you guys got going down there, and you're in the heart of it in Texas, right? All these crazy Bible thumpers, and they're supporting Satan. They love him because it gives them a chance to look down on people, which is, what God wanted white people to do, right? Perhaps plunder all the resources on the earth and suck it all into the giant capitalistic vacuum that is America. So that's one small reason why I hate Donald Trump. I could write a list that would go on and on and on.
Yeah, we could fill up this entire hour-long battery. Why do you think Donald Trump? What possible reason? Even from that convoluted brain, why would Donald Trump want to pick a fight with pretty boy Justin Trudeau?
Medicare for all. I mean, this is what the war will come down to, because the insurance companies will be pushing it because they don't want you guys to have free medical care like we do. You mentioned you had a hernia, and you're worried about the bill. Well, I don't have to worry about things like that. That's the biggest difference. We're like Americans, but we have health care, so we're probably a little bit healthier than the average American, which is why I can smoke more cigarettes and get away with it. And, basically Canada is no different than America. We're kind of America Junior, is the way I look at it, because, 90% of our companies are owned by Americans anyway. And so we are just, we're sort of the resource center, extraction center, just like Mexico is the labor center, and this is how NAFTA has been designed, so that we are the resource sector, you are the consumer, and Mexico is the provider of dirt cheap labor. So, that it's worked out well for the oligarchs, and not so much for the common man. In Canada, we've lost 50,000 jobs or so because of NAFTA, but nobody ever talks about it. It's always on mainstream media, even in Canada. Oh, NAFTA has been wonderful for Canada. It's given us all this. It's bullshit. I remember how much better Canada was before all this crap started. And, I traveled around America a lot, so I got a feel for the country. And I realized that the clueless morons are almost the same on both sides of the border. It's just that ours here wear baseball caps, and down there they wear cowboy hats. But they're very similar. In Texas, deep in Texas, yes. But I've heard Austin though isn't too bad. That it's kind of a creative.
No, Austin's a little. It's South Austin. Even it is a little island in the ocean of the ocean of Texas.
Yeah, I've been. There was also a couple of those Southwest cities that were kind of cool when I traveled through them. Santa Fe, New Mexico, places like that. So I can't say that all. That I love America. I do. I love Americans. I won't set foot in that country because I don't want to be armed. I don't want to be carrying around a weapon to defend myself and dodging bullets, because I am close to Detroit where I live. So crossing the border here would be taking my life in my hands.
When was the last time you came over here?
It would have been, let me think now. It's probably been about 5 or 6 years.
Oh, really?
And, cross the border for cheaper stuff. Your stuff is way cheaper than ours. It's cheaper to live there. Our dollars have been sinking quite a bit, so anything that I have in the bank is gone because 75% of my life savings, 25% of my life savings was just wiped out a year ago when our dollar dropped. So, they want cheaper money everywhere too. So I don't know. We're fucked. We're fucked like everybody else. Perhaps there's hope in some small way when I see resistance. I'm not talking about the Mick resistance down there, but I'm hoping that you guys can fill the streets, and I'm hoping that I would like to see Trump end up like Mussolini, My father, who fought in the Second World War, had a picture, my mother made him throw it out, of Mussolini hanging by his heels in the public square. So I don't know, maybe there's some hope for making a human piñata. It's possible. we could overcome this if enough people would pull their head out of their ass,
well,
but that's never going to happen.
What do you think? You know, my main point about the stock market this morning is I've been saying all along that overheated stock market, I call it Donald Trump's bulletproof vest. So this ought to get Homeland Security listening in on this conversation. So you know, the only way that they're going to get rid of this motherfucker is when that stock market turns around. I've been saying this since day one, and now the stock market has turned around. I'm just praying that this is that Donald Trump's slip is beginning to show today.
He's consolidating power now. I mean, this is the thing that he's attacking the judiciary. He's attacking, the FBI. If Republicans keep defending him, and I mean, there's like 100 reasons why Donald Trump could be impeached or should be impeached. But if the Republicans keep enabling him, I think they know he's crazy as a loon. But I think they like the German generals, thought that they could control him. Yeah, I think he's pushing for a war with Iran, and that's part of the overall American imperialist plan that's been going on ever since the Iraq invasion, the first one. I mean, there was, this memo that passed around said we're going to invade 7 countries in the Middle East, and I think they've got a couple more to go, but they're well on their way. So I don't know. I'm pushing for nuclear war, ending things rather than environmental.
So where do you see if nuclear war does erupt? My vote has always been the South China Sea, but I don't think many people are on board with me. Of all the various hot spots, I'm leaning towards this great limited nuclear war that's going to solve climate change between India and Pakistan. But I think World War III is coming out of the South China Sea. Where do you see the various nuclear hot spots?
I see Iran as a possibility because they are developing smaller nukes now. Americans are developing smaller nukes, and so the whole idea of the unthinkable using nuclear weapons becomes thinkable. I mean, look at the mother of all bombs that was dropped a few years back. That was just short of a nuclear explosion. So, and Donald is in trouble, and when Donald's in trouble, he tends to lash out. And Americans are incredibly easily swayed by the media into fighting a war, or supporting a war. We've seen it over and over again since I was a child, and I was a depressed child who followed the Vietnam War. So I've seen it happen over and over again. And I think what is bothering me a lot is that the alternative media seems to be being systematically shut down. And that's part of the problem. It's all to do with, when we were kids, Hambone, we had television, we had radio, and they controlled it, and nobody had a say in content or anything else. And the corporatocracy loved that situation. And when the internet came along, it was like the genie came out of the bottle, and there was some democratization of the media. And that is scaring people. That is scaring the people in power. And so I do believe that we are going to have a much more controlled internet. It's a soft censorship, though. It's not something that is really overt. It's just more ignoring, it's like we're great at ignoring all our problems and pushing them aside. We're looking at an ice-free Arctic in the next few years. But that doesn't exist on any media that you can. And to think that there's somebody that actually is denying climate change, that is in the most powerful position, the whole bunch of I hate both Democrats and the GOP, but the GOP are completely evil on steroids. They're destruction in a hurry, whereas the Democrats, they kind of take it a little slower, and just try and distract people. Well, they all do the same thing, right? So it's just back and forth. It's the same thing, and everything gets worse and worse as time goes on. And yeah, we're fucked. We're really fucked.
Okay, so well, you kind of answered my. I basically have 4 questions. So it sounds like you've answered questions 1 and 2, that we are fucked and we're really fucked.
Okay, what's the third question?
The third question is, what are we as from your perspective? Obviously, you are someone who has been researching this. How would you characterize the global human response, both technically and politically, to rising to the challenge before us right now? What grade?
I don't think we're capable of rising to the challenge. I think that the third world, it's a desperate scramble for just survival, whereas the first world is filled with clueless morons that don't want to end up depressed. And so, the human mind has infinite capacity to fool itself, to prevent itself from looking at hard truths. And when you do see the hard truths, you can't take it back. So I think there's this whole, this is Hollywood. The whole industry is making people forget what is really going on and creating this charade that's people are buying into. It's like, you were talking about the Kardashians on one of your the perfume. This is clueless, moronic behavior of its finest, and I don't see. I see more of a dumbing down of humanity. People don't question the way they should, and even there's a great resistance to oligarchy building, but it never seems to amount to anything. Nobody actually. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. Really, I don't think we're capable of doing anything. It's what my plan is, and I'm getting older now, is to get the hell out of Dodge and go to Northern Ontario and live in the bush and forget about civilization.
Are you joking, or this really is a plan?
No, this really is. I'm not joking. This is what I want to do, and be able to get away from the city at least, and because the only time I feel a sense of calm is when I'm out in the country. If I'm out in nature, there's a sense of calmness that envelopes me, and I don't want to spend my last days as a human being in civilization, because it's not worth it. It's just too painful once you've awoken. So if you can cut yourself off from that, I think people would be happier. I don't know, Hambone. What do you want to do when the shit hits the fan? What are we all going to do when the shit hits the fan?
Well, the shit has hit the fan. It's so.
Well, yes, but it's still not affecting us we're still in a state of denial in the West here.
Yeah.
And we're all in wealthy countries, and we have our gas-sucking vehicles that we continue to drive, and we're so controlled by the corporatocracy that there isn't any room to move anywhere. I've been involved in protest and activism for 30 years, maybe more, and it never changes anything. It's like, okay, here, make a lot of noise and go and do your protest and blow off some steam, but it doesn't have any effect. No, at one time, it had an effect. It seems now like we're so insulated from each other, and there's no actual human contact. Most people are in their little room with their computer or their laptop, and all of their social life becomes online. So we lose the ability to look at each other and say, hey, this is fucked, and we've got to stop it. And yeah, you get that online, but then what what can you and I do collectively, Hambone?
Well,
Really,
collectively or individually or on any level.
Are we at the point where we can change anything? I used to believe that. I used to, be filled with the hopium that pervades our society. Now, the only hope I have is that I die before things get so horrible that I see marauding hordes of Trumpsters coming over the border in their hats, and that they'll be hungry and they'll be, they'll be armed to the teeth. And what are we Canadians going to do? We're just, we're just oil drillers and seal slaughterers, so we don't have a chance to actually fight against it. I'm pulling your leg, of course. I would like to see an uprising, and I'm not talking about the pussy hat thing. And I would like to see that many people on a consistent level in the streets, and you can bring down unjust governments. It's happened before in places like East Germany. All that has to happen is that the method of control that they use, which is the police and everything, have to realize that they're getting screwed too. And if that happens, then they won't enforce, riot control. There was the G8 protest in Toronto here a few years back, and that forever, in my mind, cemented the fact that we are not living in a democracy in Canada or any Western nations, because what the police did was turned Toronto into an armed camp, arrested hundreds of people with no reason. They weren't even in the area that they were forbidden from being in. They scooped up families out for a Sunday walk and put them in cages and didn't let them go. Didn't charge them, but didn't let them go for a couple of days with one portable toilet for 50 people that were arrested for protesting, for speaking their mind, which is supposedly guaranteed in our Constitution, much like yours. But you cannot speak your mind if it gets in the way of the global oligarchs that are running things. And unless we can throw off the shackles from that, there's nothing we can do.
But the bottom line is I've never really developed this rant that much. Let's say all of these Chris Hedges style revolution protests in the street, which I don't believe is ever going to happen because I'm Orwellian in my own outlook. But let's say it did happen. But that doesn't mean, or do you think it does mean? What does that mean?
Well, I think
for the
might
people?
Give us a slight chance.
But are they going to stop supporting? Are they going to stop supporting the corporatocracy that keeps them in such a level of comfort, or is the global corporatocracy just going to reinvent itself into some sort of greenwashing on steroids machine? And as Ayn Rand said back in 1957, the only way to put these motherfuckers out of business is to stop buying their products. And I don't see all of these people out in the streets and demanding, even the ones that want to run out the oligarchs. They're still going to They're still going to stop off at Walmart on their way home from the protest march, and they're going to go on.
Having creature comforts is a very powerful thing for people. I am of the belief that things will get so bad that they won't be able to afford to shop at Walmart anymore. If we reach that point, then I can see small communities forming and using barter as perhaps some sort of way to break free from it. But I mean, look at us all. We're all hypocrites. Any way you look at it, you are doing a lot of work informing people of just how bad things have got.
As I'm on the way to Home Depot to buy a new chainsaw.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
So you can you can say, see, if you can't, you who are really committed to getting the message out that this is unsustainable and we're heading for a brick wall at 90 miles an hour, but even you are a slave to that economic system. You're not gonna find a 100-year-old axe and cut down the trees in your yard that you need to, right? You know.
I'm gonna go to Home Depot, and because I have a hernia, I'm gonna bypass the gas power ones and just pick up an electric power one.
Yeah. Yeah,
well,
I guess that's a little better than gasoline. Those little motors really spew out a lot of garbage.
It's no better, Vegematic. Trust me. But no, I'm constantly people that don't understand this, including my now former girlfriend who totally misinterpreted my crystal hamburger video.
Oh, you eat 3 ounces of beef. You heathen.
Yeah, I'm always putting myself out there as an example of a clueless fucking moron. You know, and the point I'm trying to make is even those of us who can intellectualize what is going on this planet and fully taking, quote, responsibility for our actions, we're still going we're still stuffing our faces with crystal hamburgers and running to Home Depot and buying chainsaws and gassing up that gas-sucking truck. And this is why, there is no way that individual consumer and lifestyle choices, this entire fucking system has to go.
Yeah. Well, we're enslaved by it. We're
exactly.
How many people are willing to actually give up their cars? Give up? I'm not.
I did it for 6.5 years, and that was 5.5 years too long.
Yeah, I know. My wife and I went without a car for close to 20 years.
Oh, really?
We rode bicycles everywhere. We were trying to be sustainable, and it got to the point where it just seemed ridiculous. Because it's you can't, that little thing that we did not breed, which is another
the main
place where we have full agreement. The population is out of control, and nobody's talking about that at all. It's have babies, babies are us, and this. It's weird. My wife and I are on the same level of this. We never wanted children. At my age, people would always say, "Oh, when you get old, you'll regret it. You won't have grandchildren and everything." No, I don't regret it one fucking bit.
Hallelujah, brother.
If we'd had a kid, it would have been really fucked up, and probably, I'm willing to admit that I would probably be a lousy parent. But people don't take parenting responsibility seriously, or having realizing just not only the environmental impact, but the impact on people's lives. And of course, you always get the reply when you say that you're an antinatalist. Well, you're just selfish, that's all, And no, I'm not selfish. I think having children in this day and age is extremely selfish. And I see it all around, man, and I just go, why? Why have another little planet nibbler, like you say, a planet muncher, since we're in the West here? Because by the time they grow up, there's nothing going to be left to munch on,
Do they have a store in Canada? I never have done the rant on this store, and right here in South Austin, it's called Buy Baby Buy. B-U-Y, baby, B.
No,
that's the name of the store, is Buy Baby Buy. I mean, it's right there, brother.
Exactly, you got it.
It is the global corporatocracy plastered across the front of a building in environmentally correct South Austin. Buy Baby Buy. I need to go over there, but I would be arrested quickly, I assure you.
No doubt.
Can you imagine me walking into that store with my camera?
Do it.
Oh, God. I value my
I'd be like
freedom.
Donald Trump. I'll pay your court costs. I'd like to see that, actually. That would be very entertaining, Hambone. I think you should do it.
I think Trump got that "I will pay your court costs" line from Duterte, didn't he? Aren't the two,
probably.
Aren't the two of them buddies? I know they have a lot of respect. Well, at least Donald Trump has a lot of respect for Duterte. I don't know if it goes both ways or not.
Useful idiot, probably, but to do well. Duterte is as miserable an evil son of a bitch as you're ever going to find. I mean, the war on drugs thing there
Good God.
is insane. Man, I thought the war on drugs in the States was bad, but what's going on over there is just the wholesale slaughter of anybody even suspected of inhaling a plant. Whereas here, we're finally starting to accept pot as part of life, and the government has suddenly decided that they can make a lot of money off of it in Canada. And
so what is the status in Canada right now? I mean, I
we're going to be legal coast to coast by July.
Oh, really?
And yet, where I live, the government is going to be totally in control of both the supply and the retail end of it. So it's going to be in all of Ontario, which is a very large province geographically. You're looking at 40 government-run stores initially, and they are developing ways to. It's not really going to be legal, because I'll tell you why. The driving thing. They are saying, well, of course, it's up to the cops to decide whether or not you're high, and they have these tests that supposedly, you're not walking the straight line correctly, probably because my hips all fucked up. But so, I would be afraid to go to a government-run pot store because I'm sure somebody's taking notes, and if you're driving later on, they could, start. It's like a target on your back. Plus, we have the interesting situation of former police who were drug warriors are now investing in the marijuana industry big time. So these people this one fellow that used to be the police chief in the town that I'm in, London, and later on the chief of police in Toronto, and busted I don't know how many people, would say, well, anybody that says marijuana should be legal, it's the same as saying murder should be legal, and that was the quote from him. And now here he is investing in in a pot company. So, yeah, it's kind of, once they realize they can make money off of it. You see, we don't have private prisons here to make money, for the drug warriors the way you do down there, and. I don't know. I don't think they can turn the clock back on that one. So maybe that's something positive we can focus on a winter day. That perhaps there's a more enlightened. We lived through the '80s, for God's sakes, and when they were equating marijuana with heroin,
Well, they still are technically the U.S. It's still a Class 1. Yes. It's a Schedule 1 narcotic.
Schedule 1, still Schedule 1. Well, of course, you've got Elmer Fudd Sessions there. That man needs a toke more than anybody I've ever seen. A toke and a blowjob, it might do wonders for Sessions. I just think that perhaps he didn't get enough love as a child, and they told him he was a nasty little person. He probably got pushed into lockers in high school and everything by stoners, and then he said, I'll get my fucking revenge, Because I noticed that, all the little dweebs in high school that you're smoking pot, I'm going to tell, the hall monitors and that, well, they go into politics afterwards.
Yeah, that's a bunch of hall monitors have become, the PTB. They are a different type of human. They're very narrow. Perhaps it's like Hank Hill on King of the Hill, and they have narrow urethras, and that's their problem. But I don't know. I'm going off into a tangent, Hambone, and I really have to cut this a little short because although it's pleasurable, I have other things that I've got to attend to, like picking up my wife
and driving her in my gas-sucking van to somewhere or other. I don't know.
Well, let's before you run off on us, I want to talk about. Let's just briefly talk about your your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
What happened to you, and are you coming back? Did you get depressed?
I am coming back. I decided that I will be making a video very shortly. Let me tell you a lot of the stuff that happened to me. One of the most egregious things that I found just despicable, and I've told this story on my channel before, but I was so shocked, was during the election in 2016, and I put together this thing with an old song about revolution and Bernie Sanders. And it took off. It was a Thunderclap Newman song, you know, call it The Instigators, something in the air, that's what it was called. And so I was allowed to use that song because it had already been on YouTube. I just couldn't make any money, which I never made a cent off YouTube anyway. But it took off like crazy, and it was going gangbusters. Like, it got 1,000 views in a couple of hours, and all of a sudden, I checked it. The view count was down to less than 400 and froze there, and that was it. And and then I started reading about algorithms and about, of course, the corporate control of Alphabet, Google, YouTube, and they were politically involved. I mean, they were like Google was one of the biggest donators. Is that a word? To Hillary Clinton's campaign. Donors, that's it. Donators. I like donators better. I don't know. It sounds like something like some sort of donut or something. But anyway, so I got frustrated. I had a couple of interesting videos. You remember the whole Michael Trim thing?
Yeah, you got up into the 4 digits on once you started brushing up against the conspiracy guys, that will get you views. And so
it turned out Michael Trim has, like, I don't know, he gets videos with 60,000 views or whatever. And back then, he had, you remember the whole thing where he sort of pretended he was in danger and everything, pushing that. And he ended up, like, he claimed he was progressive and he was for Sanders and everything. And he ended up voting for Trump in the end.
Are you serious? Michael Trim voted for Trump? I have not heard that till this minute.
Yeah, I don't know if it's well known now that he's a big YouTube star, but he said he was going to vote for Trump, and I just called him an asshole, and that was, unsubscribed and everything else. But he used this whole thing. They're out to get me, and it looks like I'm going to be in big trouble and everything. So I bought into it. I was naive. This guy was doing it as some sort of a publicity stunt. And, YouTube is full of that type of thing. It's like H.8 Goodman and people like that who, I don't know if you know his channel, but they're just into this whole conspiracy, we're more important than we really are. So anyway, once I got a couple of 5,000 view videos that I put out on that. And as soon as I changed the subject, well, I was back down to, like 50 or 60 or whatever it is. And I see this asshole's views going through the roof. And I'm going, okay, what is this? This doesn't make any sense. This guy is, And he basically did a video saying, all those people that were like conspiracy theorists that thought I was in trouble and everything, and he was pushing this, right? So he tried to make me look like a complete asshole, but I think, assholes run the world, and people like us, Hambone, we just, hang around at the edges and kind of tug on people's sleeves and say, hey, look how fucked we are. People don't want to hear that, They really don't want to hear how fucked we are. And I don't blame people for not wanting to be depressed. I blame people for not facing up to what's going on and haven't been in all the years that the 80s, the whole me decade and everything, oh my God, that was horrible, especially to us who were on the left side of the spectrum and anti-nuclear.
But it seems to me to be getting worse about the me,
Of
me.
course.
The me generation is stronger in 2018 than any year I've ever been alive.
Yeah, and YouTube is filled with narcissists.
Hey, now,
by
be
and
careful.
large. I don't think you're a narcissist. I don't. You're self-deprecating, and narcissists are not self-deprecating. I think, but YouTube is filled with narcissists, and they do not want to form any sort of community. Originally when I started my channel, my idea was to hook up with other people that of similar mindset and run each other's videos on our channel and just like not do it as a money thing, but just in order to maybe make our voices a little louder. But it was almost impossible to get people to agree to do that. It was always, I won't make money then. Well, you're not making money now. Well, I might. I'm sorry. YouTube pays their selected, chosen few some money, I guess, for the ads, but I don't think they like me because I recommend strongly everybody use an ad blocker on YouTube because otherwise it's impossible to watch.
I try those things and they work for 2 or 3 months, and it's just like a better mousetrap. And then before I know it, the fucking ads are back on there. Then I got to find another mousetrap.
Yeah, what they do, it's a game of cat and mouse, really.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
You've got to keep updating them and everything. But I think ad blockers are the best thing that ever happened.
Which one are you using now? Which one do you recommend for people?
AdBlock Plus has been very good. I know you use it on
AdBlock
Firefox.
Plus. Is that free or do you pay for it?
No, it's free. It's just you go onto Firefox onto your add-ons. Oh, now this video's not going anywhere if I talk about this stuff. Go into your add-ons on Firefox.
But you have to use Firefox. It wouldn't work on Google Chrome.
It might. I don't use Google products. Just other than YouTube. But I wouldn't know. I think there's some apps probably for Google Plus too. But I find Firefox is a better browser.
Have you checked out these new YouTube competitors? I'm really impressed by the content of this new I don't know how new it is, called BitChute. They've changed their name to Speak Out.
Yeah.
I really like them. They have some technical problems, and their support team is awful. But I really like. I mean, I really like their general what they're trying to do. So maybe you should bring back your channel on. I've started a Hambone Little channel on BitChute and on Vimeo.
How many videos are you making, man? You're full time at this, right?
I spend way too. Well, I don't have a fucking life. I don't have a life. If I had a real life,
all around the world love you, Hambone.
If I had a real life, I wouldn't be doing this so much. But I'm trying. I'm just playing around over there and BitChute, Speak Out, and Vimeo.com. Just I'm just feeling out the situation.
Yeah, I remember the whole VidMe thing when that was going to replace YouTube, and that didn't last long. They went out of business really fast, and there's been a couple of competitors over the years that never seem to get anywhere. It's hard to break the monopoly, for anybody to break the monopoly. Like Google has more, and I don't even think Google makes that much money off of YouTube. They probably break even on it.
Yeah.
But, I think it's more of turning it into some sort of a propaganda tool. Speaking of YouTube, I just have to say, I promised a friend of mine, Lib the Realist, LB the Realist, Surrealistic Studios. He just started putting out videos that routinely get like 10 views and stuff. And I just thought I'd give him a shout out and say, hey,
what's the name again?
LB, large L, small b, the Realist at Surrealistic Studios.
All right, I'll go check him out. So yeah, plug anyone. These new channels.
Well, I particularly like to plug him because I'm forever trying to support the little channels. I'm always sharing them, and I don't really find much interest in the larger channels, the young turds or whatever.
Well, I keep inviting my own tribes members. You're finally here. I won't name any names. That they're welcome to come on here and have me interview them, and they won't even, my own tribes members will not even let me interview them for their own channels. So I don't know what that's all about. But anyway, we are now, I see, good Lord, we're already over 50 minutes.
We're over an hour or so.
Yeah, well, we're running into the end of my battery, so. But we are going to see you back on Vegematic, is that correct?
Yes, you will. You will see me back on Vegematic, I would say, probably in about a week.
In about a week. So it's February 6th today, so give it another week. But you still have your existing videos on there, right?
They're still up. Yeah, they're still up. I'm still getting subs, actually, which is surprising. I still get the odd sub popping up.
Let's welcome Vegematic back to the crowd, and as I always do here in the close of these whatever you call my voices of the Doomosphere. Okay, Vegematic, instead of talking to Humpty Dumpty Tribe, you have actually caught the attention of one of the mainstream media networks, and they give you a 60-second soundbite to tell the world whatever you want to tell the world in 60 seconds.
In 60 seconds,
go for it, brother.
I would like to tell the world just to give up. It's over. Forget it. Smoke a big fat rat. Relax. Have a beer. Put your feet up and wait for the end. And be happy. No. Eat your Brussels sprouts. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much for the interview. I appreciate it. I will continue to be a rabid fan of Humpty Dumpty Tribe, and I'm sure we will be in touch in the future. If you ever find yourself north of the border, you have a place to stay.
Well, I'm heading that way, you realize.
I didn't really mean it.
Well, I was just going to say, be careful what you wish for, because Sancho Panza and I, that's where we're heading.
You're heading to Canada?
Yeah, I'm heading your way. I want to go visit Treebeard, and it sounds like Sandy's having a big ass party up there in Western New York. I don't think that's too far from where you are.
Oh, I'm in love with Sandy.
Well, you're going to have to come over to this side of the border. I think she's already hired 2 bands. It's going to be sometime in late August.
I need a passport. I've got to get a passport.
To come to the U.S., you need a passport? Do we need a passport to go visit you now or not?
No, you don't. You don't, but I do.
Well, you better be at that party in August. But I'm going to go visit James Howard Kunstler. He's invited me up for a few days, and you and Treebeard, and so it's going to be a fun summer. But we got to. That's assuming there is a summer of 2018.
Indeed,
so.
Indeed.
Anyway, brother, it's been fun.
And good luck with those pussy problems.
Just don't bring that up. I'm working on it. I'm gonna put Sancho Panza to work on that.
Yeah, maybe get one of those little hats. Take care, my friend.
All right, brother. See ya.
Bye now.
Bye. And that was that. For I have finally had the pleasure of talking to my old buddy Vegematic. And guys, do tune into his channel if you don't know Vegematic's channel. Sounds like he really is coming back to YouTube. I've been on his butt recently. It's time to get him back, get his voice on the air. And with that, maybe the rain has stopped in Austin, Texas, so I can finally crank up my brand new Home Depot electric chainsaw and head out into the gloomy paradise of Garfield, Texas. Look out, trees. Eco-Nazi coming your way with a Home Depot chainsaw. Bye, guys.